Admiral Zwextera's crystalline sensory appendages trembled as she watched the human transport vessel descend through Outpost Delta's atmosphere. After 3 cycles of preparation, the first human military unit was finally arriving for the Galactic Defense Alliance's joint training program. "Admiral, the human vessel is requesting landing clearance," Lieutenant Karval reported, his bioluminescent spots pulsing with anxiety. "Should we activate the medical emergency protocols?" Zwextera's crystalline form sparkled with amusement. "Why would we need medical protocols, Lieutenant? The gravity here is 1.4 times Earth standard, Admiral. Surely they'll need assistance just to..." The transport's landing gear touched down with a thunderous impact that sent vibrations through the observation deck. Before Karval could finish his sentence, the vessel's main hatch burst open. A towering figure strode out, moving with fluid grace despite the crushing gravity. "I am Commander Diana Walsh of Earth's 7th Expeditionary Force," the human announced, her voice carrying effortlessly across the landing zone. Behind her, 40 more humans emerged from the transport, each carrying what appeared to be massive equipment packs. Zwextera's internal crystals resonated with shock. According to her briefings, each of those packs weighed as much as a juvenile Centaurian tank beast. Yet these humans wore them as casually as ceremonial decorations. "Welcome to Outpost Delta," Zwextera transmitted through the external speakers. "Perhaps we should allow your troops time to acclimate to our gravity before..." Commander Walsh's laugh interrupted her. "With respect, Admiral, we've been training at 3 times Earth gravity for the past month. This is practically a vacation." She turned to her troops. "All right, you lazy primates. Standard warm-up circuit. Let's show our hosts how humans say hello." To Zwextera's astonishment, the entire unit dropped to the reinforced landing pad and began performing what her database identified as push-ups. The impact of 40 humans moving in perfect synchronization registered on the outpost's seismic sensors. "Sir," Karval's voice cracked, "the landing pad structural integrity is at 85% and falling." "Already?" Walsh called out, somehow hearing the lieutenant's worried whisper. "We haven't even started the real workout yet. Troops, let's take this to the parade ground. We don't want to break our host's fancy landing pad on day 1. The humans rose as one and began jogging toward the parade ground, their heavy packs bouncing in rhythm. Several broke into song, something about blood, glory, and crushing their enemies beneath their boots. The translation software gave up halfway through and displayed an error message. Zwextera watched as the unit disappeared around the corner, their footfalls leaving slight indentations in the reinforced metal surface of the walkway. "Karval, send an immediate message to engineering. Tell them to reinforce everything." "Everything, Admiral." "Everything." "And Karval?" "Yes, Admiral." "Update the training protocols. What we considered extreme should now be labeled warm-up. And pray to the crystal matrix that we never have to face these beings in actual combat." As if to punctuate her words, a distant chorus of human voices rose in another war song, followed by the distinct sound of training equipment being stress-tested well beyond its design specifications. The first day of joint training hadn't even officially begun, and already Zwextera knew that everything she thought she knew about physical limitations would need to be reconsidered. In the distance, Commander Walsh's voice rang out, "Come on, people. My grandmother could do better than this, and she's been dead for 30 years. Pick up the pace." The sound of 40 humans somehow managing to run faster while carrying enough weight to crush a small vehicle echoed across the outpost. Zwextera's crystals resonated with a mixture of terror and fascination. This was going to be an interesting training cycle indeed. 2 solar cycles into the joint training program, Lieutenant Karval found himself questioning everything he knew about biological limitations. He stood at his observation post, watching Commander Walsh's troops navigate what the aliens had previously classified as the unsurvivable course. "Begin standard morning conditioning." Walsh's voice carried across the toxic wasteland of Training Zone Beta. The purple acid pools bubbled ominously as 40 humans lined up at the starting line, each now carrying twice the weight they'd arrived with. "Sir," Private Jasmine Thompson called out, adjusting her pack. "Permission to increase weight load? This feels a bit light today." Karval's bioluminescent spots flickered in disbelief. The light pack she carried would crush most sentient species. Walsh's grin was visible even from the observation post. "Denied, Thompson. Save something for the afternoon session. Now, standard run through the course. First one to finish gets extra dessert rations." The humans exploded into motion, charging through terrain that had claimed the lives of countless training droids. They leaped over acid pools, their boots somehow resistant to the caustic spray. They ducked under jets of plasma that erupted randomly from the ground, treating deadly hazards like a childish game. "Sir." Karval's assistant, tech specialist VYX, called out in panic. "The environmental sensors must be malfunctioning. They're showing the humans' core temperatures should be fatal." "No malfunction," Karval replied, watching as Private Thompson performed what appeared to be a backflip over a particularly wide acid pool, still carrying her light pack. "They're just human." In the middle of the course, Corporal Jackson Raja had stopped to help a squad mate whose boot had gotten stuck in the corrosive terrain. Instead of abandoning him, as any sensible species would do, Raja simply hoisted both his companion and the trapped boot onto his shoulders, nearly doubling his already impossible load, and continued running. "Did you see that?" VYX's spots had gone completely dark with shock. "He's carrying 2 full loads through gravity that should be crushing them, in temperature that should be cooking them, through air that should be dissolving their lungs." "And singing," Karval added as the humans broke into another of their battlefield hymns. This one seemed to be about the joy of running through fire and drinking the tears of their enemies. The translation software had given up trying to make sense of it days ago. Commander Walsh jogged alongside her troops, offering what humans apparently considered encouragement. "My deceased grandmother's ghost could run faster than this. What's wrong, did you all forget how to breathe? The acid pools are practically room temperature today." To Karval's continued amazement, the humans actually accelerated. Thompson took the lead, now running backward to taunt her companions while dodging plasma jets with casual ease. Raja, still carrying his companion, had somehow worked his way into third place. "Lieutenant," VYX whispered, "should we inform Admiral ZYX Terra that the humans are exceeding the course's safety parameters by roughly 300%? "The Admiral is already aware," Karval replied, watching as the first humans crossed the finish line, immediately dropping into push-up positions to cool down. "She's currently in meetings with the Engineering Corps, discussing how to make the course actually challenging for our human allies." Walsh gathered her troops, none of whom showed signs of fatigue despite having just completed what was supposed to be a lethal obstacle course. "Not bad for a warm-up. Now, who's ready for the real morning exercise?" The humans cheered. Actually cheered. "What's the real exercise?" VYX asked, dreading the answer. As if in response, Walsh pulled out what appeared to be massive weighted training suits. "Time to make things interesting. Full gear, 10 laps, underwater route. And since you're all looking so fresh, let's add in some light calisthenics between laps." Karval watched as the humans eagerly donned the additional weight, their enthusiasm undiminished by what should have been an impossible task. He made a mental note to update the Galactic Defense Alliance's combat capability assessments. Under humans, physical limitations, he would simply write, "None found." In the distance, Thompson's voice rang out, "Last one in the acid lake does tomorrow's equipment maintenance." The sound of 40 heavily armed and armored humans rushing toward lethal liquid was followed by enthusiastic splashing and more singing. Karval's spots pulsed with resignation. He wasn't being paid enough for this. Admiral ZYX Terra sat in her command center, reviewing the latest reports from what humans called their light survival exercise. The crystalline displays showed 40 red dots moving through the most inhospitable region of the training zone, an area locally known as the Valley of Eternal Night. "They've been going for 72 hours straight," Lieutenant Karval reported, his bioluminescence dimmed with exhaustion just from watching them. "No sleep, minimal water, toxic atmosphere, and they're still moving." On the main screen, Private Thompson's vital signs scrolled past. Despite having just climbed a sheer cliff face in complete darkness while carrying both her pack and an injured squad mate, her biochemical readings showed only mild elevation in stress hormones. Status update. Commander Walsh's voice crackled through the comm system. She had insisted on participating in the exercise alongside her troops, naturally. Squad 3, report position. Ma'am. Squad 3 currently crossing the liquid methane rapids, Corporal Raj's cheerful voice responded. "We found some interesting local wildlife. Permission to collect samples." Xtera's crystals vibrated in shock. "The rapids are at -160 degrees Celsius. How are they even?" "Negative on sample collection, Raja," Walsh interrupted. "Save the science projects for next week's deep-sea expedition. Though I like your initiative. When we get back, remind me to sign you up for the xenobiology training module." The display showed Raja's squad navigating the deadly rapids using improvised ice tools and what appeared to be pure stubbornness. One of his team members slipped into the liquid methane but was quickly pulled out by her companions. Rather than showing signs of hypothermia or death, she simply laughed and continued moving. "Speaking of next week," Thompson's voice chimed in from somewhere near the volcanic sector, "are we still on for that low-orbit skydiving exercise? Because I've been working on some new freefall maneuvers." "Focus on the current exercise, Thompson." Walsh barked, though there was amusement in her voice. "And yes, orbital drop training is still on schedule. Assuming any of you can keep up with my grandmother's ghost in 0G. The humans' laughter echoed through the command center. They were laughing. In conditions that would kill most species in minutes, while carrying enough equipment to outfit a small army, after 3 days without sleep, they were laughing. "Admiral," Karval's spots pulsed with concern, "Squad 4 has encountered a pack of shadow hunters in the dark zone." Shadow hunters were apex predators, virtually invisible in darkness, with natural armor that could repel most weapons. The last training unit that had encountered them had been evacuated with heavy casualties. "Should we send in the rescue teams?" Karval asked, already reaching for the emergency protocols. "Wait," Xtera ordered, watching the scene unfold on thermal imaging. Squad 4, led by Sergeant Reena Patel, had formed a defensive circle. But instead of calling for extraction, they seemed to be studying the predators. "Hey Commander," Patel's excited voice came through, accompanied by the distinct sounds of combat. "Remember how you said we needed to work on our hand-to-hand combat skills? Well, these big fellows seem happy to help with that. Also, their hide might make excellent armor plating. Permission to bring one back for analysis." Walsh's sigh was audible even through the static. "Patel, what did I say about adopting every dangerous creature you find during training exercises? That it showed excellent tactical thinking and resource management. That was before you tried to domesticate those plasma eels last week. Focus on the exercise. You can play with the deadly predators during your free time." "Yes, ma'am," Patel responded, sounding disappointed. The thermal imaging showed her squad efficiently disengaging from the shadow hunters, leaving the supposedly invincible predators looking somewhat worse for wear. Xtera turned to Karval. "Update the xenobiology database. Classify shadow hunters as moderately dangerous, avoid confrontation unless board human present." "Admiral," Karval reported, his spots now pulsing rapidly, "the humans have begun singing again. Something about making friends with monsters and teaching them to dance." "Don't bother with translation," Xtera sighed. Just mark it down as another example of humans being humans. In the Valley of Eternal Night, 40 humans continued their light exercise, treating one of the deadliest training grounds in the galaxy like an amusing diversion. The sound of their war songs echoed through the toxic air, accompanied by the occasional explosion and enthusiastic requests to try increasingly dangerous activities. Somewhere in the darkness, Commander Walsh was probably smiling, planning next week's moderate exercises. ZYX Terra made a mental note to reinforce the orbital drop pods. Something told her the standard models wouldn't be nearly sturdy enough for what humans considered a casual training jump. The Galactic Defense Alliance's chief psychologist, Dr. ZYVX, stared at his readings in disbelief. The neural monitoring equipment, designed to track stress responses across dozens of different species, was giving him impossible data. Run the analysis again, he ordered his assistant, whose crystalline form was vibrating with confusion. This is the fifth analysis, Doctor, the assistant replied. The results are consistent. The humans are enjoying this. Below them, in what was euphemistically called the mental resilience chamber, Commander Walsh's unit was undergoing their fourth day of psychological warfare training. The chamber was designed to break even the strongest minds within hours, using a combination of sensory manipulation, time dilation, and reality distortion. Private Thompson's voice echoed through the monitoring system, "Hey, is anyone else finding this kind of relaxing? It's like that meditation retreat I went to last summer, except with more existential horror." "Focus on the exercise, Thompson." Walsh called out, her own neural readings showing what appeared to be mild amusement. "And save the vacation stories for after we break out of this pocket dimension." Dr. ZYVX's assistant pulled up another set of readings. "Sir, Corporal Raja's squad has somehow turned the reality distortion field into a game." Indeed, Raja and his team had discovered that by synchronizing their movements in certain ways, they could create ripple effects in the chamber's reality-bending fields. They were using these ripples to play what appeared to be a modified version of volleyball, complete with scoring system. "That's technically impossible," Dr. ZYVX muttered, watching as Raja's team scored another point by sending a reality wave through what should have been an impenetrable psychological barrier. "Sergeant Patel's squad is doing something even stranger," the assistant reported. "They appear to be cataloging the hallucinations." Through the observation window, Patel could be seen taking notes while her team systematically documented and rated each nightmare scenario the chamber threw at them. They had developed a scoring system based on creativity, terror factor, and what they called mean potential. "This one's definitely a solid 8 on the cosmic horror scale," Patel's voice came through, clinical and composed. "Though I feel like the tentacles are a bit cliché. Hey, can we request custom hallucinations? I've got some ideas for improvements." The chamber, apparently confused by this response, cycled through its strongest fear programs. The humans responded by offering constructive criticism and suggestions for making the scenarios more interesting. "Admiral ZYX Terra should see this," Dr. ZYVX said, forwarding the data to command. "The implications for our understanding of human psychology are significant." In the chamber, Walsh had gathered her troops for what she called a quick motivational exercise, before moving on to the next phase of training. The humans stood in a circle, their neural patterns synchronizing in a way that made the monitoring equipment spark with confusion. "All right, you beautiful disasters." Walsh's voice carried that now familiar tone of enthusiastic challenge. "The chamber thinks it can break us with a little reality bending and some spooky light shows. What do we say to that?" Challenge accepted, 40 voices responded in unison, their combined determination causing a feedback loop in the psychological warfare systems. "Sir," the assistant reported, "the chamber's AI is requesting to surrender." Dr. ZYVX watched as the humans began another of their battlefield songs, this one apparently about laughing in the face of cosmic horror and teaching eldritch abominations to do push-ups. The translation software gave up entirely and began playing soothing music instead. "Thompson, stop trying to adopt the shadow creatures. Walsh called out. Patel, we can't take hallucinations back as souvenirs. Raja, excellent form on that interdimensional spike, but remember to follow through. The chamber, designed to be the ultimate test of mental fortitude, had effectively become a human playground. Dr. ZYVX made a note in his official report: human psychological resilience exceeds measurable parameters. Recommend reclassifying all known mental warfare tactics as mild entertainment when dealing with human subjects. In the chamber below, Thompson had somehow convinced a manifestation of primal fear to join their volleyball game, while Patel's team was conducting an impromptu seminar on the proper technique for high-fiving across multiple dimensions of reality. Next time, Walsh announced, we'll do this blindfolded. Can't have you all getting too comfortable with just regular reality distortion. The humans cheered. The chamber's AI requested immediate retirement. Dr. ZYVX began drafting a paper that would revolutionize the field of xenopsychology, assuming anyone believed his findings. Just another day in humanity's ongoing mission to redefine the impossible. Admiral ZYX Terra stood before the Galactic Defense Alliance Council, her crystalline form gleaming under the chamber's lights. Behind her, a holographic display showed footage from the past month of joint training exercises. Distinguished council members, she began, I stand before you today to report on what can only be described as a paradigm shift in our understanding of military capability. The display showed Commander Walsh's unit performing what they called a basic orbital insertion exercise. 40 humans were free-falling through the atmosphere of a gas giant, manually adjusting their trajectory by what appeared to be sheer force of will, all while carrying enough equipment to outfit a small army. As you can see, ZYX Terra continued, our human allies have not only survived our most challenging training programs but have fundamentally altered our conception of what is possible. Lieutenant Karval advanced the display to show Corporal Raja's squad teaching a group of crystalline recruits their hand-to-hand combat techniques. The aliens, despite their natural armor and superior strength, were being expertly flipped and thrown by humans who seemed to ignore the laws of physics. More importantly, ZYX Terra emphasized, they have begun sharing their knowledge with our forces. The results have been remarkable. The footage shifted to show Private Thompson leading a mixed-species team through the reinforced obstacle course. Under her guidance, beings who had once considered the course impossible were now completing it with growing confidence, though perhaps not with the same enthusiastic disregard for personal safety as their human instructors. Sergeant Patel's innovations in xenobiology and tactical adaptation have revolutionized our approach to environmental challenges, ZYX Terra noted as the display showed Patel's latest project, a training program that turned previously hostile native creatures into impromptu training partners. A council member's crystalline form flickered with concern. These achievements are impressive, but surely the psychological toll on our forces has been minimal, Dr. ZYVX interrupted, stepping forward. In fact, exposure to human training methods has significantly improved the mental resilience of all participating units. They've learned to view impossible challenges as opportunities for growth, though I still cannot explain how humans transform existential terror into what they call entertainment value. The display showed the latest joint exercise, a massive simulation of planetary defense. Humans and aliens worked in seamless coordination, each species contributing their unique strengths. Where the crystalline forces provided tactical precision, the humans added their characteristic ability to turn certain defeat into improbable victory through what they termed creative problem-solving, and what everyone else termed beautiful madness. Commander Walsh, ZYX Terra called out, would you share your assessment of the program's success? Walsh stepped forward, somehow managing to make her standard uniform look like battle armor. With pleasure, Admiral. In just 1 month, we've achieved what skeptics claimed was impossible, true interspecies military cooperation. My troops have learned precision and discipline from your forces, while teaching them that the impossible is often just a matter of perspective. The display showed the final exercise of the training cycle, a combined arms operation involving orbital drops, underwater combat, and what Walsh had casually described as light planetary engineering. Humans and aliens moved as one unit, their different physiologies and abilities complementing each other perfectly. The Galactic Defense Alliance was founded on the principle of strength through unity, HFY concluded. Thanks to our human allies, we now understand that unity doesn't mean conformity. It means learning from each other, challenging our limitations, and growing stronger together. Also, Walsh added with her characteristic grin, we've submitted some suggestions for upgrading the training facilities. The current ones are a bit under-challenging. The council chamber erupted in a mixture of amusement and terror. They had seen the suggestions, a complete redesign of every training ground to accommodate what humans considered moderate difficulty. As the council deliberated, Thompson's voice could be heard from somewhere outside, "Hey Commander, remember those plasma eels Patel wasn't supposed to adopt?" Well, funny story. Walsh sighed, but her smile never wavered. "If you'll excuse me, council members, it seems my troops have found another impossible situation to turn into a training opportunity." HFY watched her leave, then turned back to the council. "I recommend immediate approval of all proposed joint training expansions. After all, if there's one thing we've learned, it's that impossible is just another word for, hasn't met humans yet." In the distance, the sound of humans singing their battle songs mixed with the crystalline harmonies of their alien counterparts. The translation software, finally accepting defeat, simply labeled it as, "Sound of Progress, Species, Human and Friends." The future of the Galactic Defense Alliance had never looked brighter, or more entertainingly terrifying.